Hi everybody, welcome to Right to the Top. I'm Adam. We're going to continue today with our course about the first steps towards your test preparation for IELTS and TOEFL. And today we're going to talk about building your vocab, okay? How you should build your vocab, why you should build your vocab. And it's not only for the test, it's for long term as well. And even if you're not taking the test, still some good ideas here for you. So we're going to think about what words we should learn and how to learn and remember vocab. So, very simple. And I've said this 1,000 times and I'll say it 1,000 times more. Read. Every single day you should be reading something in English. Now, it doesn't have to be boring. You're not reading a dictionary, you're not reading an academic word list and trying to memorize words. Read interesting things. There's tons of online content. And if you go to my website, there's a box there that says ideas. Every week, or I'll put 1 or 2 interesting articles and I'll highlight the good vocab from it. And all kinds of different things you can read about. Science, sports, history, entertainment. Anything that interests you, read about it in English. I highly recommend novels. Novels will give you a lot of insight into how grammar can be played with, how words can be used in different ways. You'll get a lot of very strong style and grammar points from reading novels. But of course, nonfiction as well. If you don't like novels, read creative nonfiction, read biographies, things like that. Even if you want to still focus on your schoolwork, read your textbooks. If you're an engineering student, read an engineering book in English. Computer science in English. Biology in English. Do it as much as you can in English. Now, vocabulary. Keep a notebook. And I'm going to tell you what you should do in this notebook. Every time you learn a new word, don't just learn the one form of it. Learn other forms of the word. If you learned a noun, can it be made into a verb? Can it be made into an adjective? Can it be made into an adverb? Okay. Organize, verb, organization, organizational, organized. Any other form of the word that you can find, put it in your notebook. Study the whole family together. Always look for secondary meanings, if there are, but secondary meanings that can be useful. A lot of words have secondary meanings that you will probably never use. But for example, the word minute, okay? Everybody knows time. 60 seconds, 1 minute. 60 minutes, 1 hour. Very easy word. Minute. So it looks the same, it's pronounced differently. Minute means tiny, very, very small, okay? So this is a good thing to have as well. When you learn a word, if there's a secondary meaning that might be useful, learn that as well. And minute is for sure a word you will see on the IELTS or TOEFL. Now, what I want you to also start doing, and this is called vocab chunks, okay? I want you to create chunks. Now, if you're taking the test, IELTS, TOEFL again, in the next few weeks or a couple of months, this is not necessarily something that's going to help you right now. This is more of a long-term vocab builder. What I want you to do, I want you to create extensions. When you learn a word, look at other words that you can form from this word. So minute, very small. Diminutive. Diminutive also means very small, but it has a particular use. You would call a person, for example, diminutive. A lot of you might know the word petite, like a petite woman. She's not small, but she's not tall. She's pretty thin. We can also call her diminutive. You can look at a diminutive lamp. Okay, it's not small, but relative to other things of a similar nature, it's a little bit small, it's a little bit delicate, it's a little bit fragile. And from diminutive, then you also have diminish. To diminish means to make less or to become less, okay, depending how you're using it. The last word there, dim. Dim means the most common use is not bright. A little bit of light, so not enough light. But you can also use it for other things, like a dim sound. It means not very loud, like a little bit of a sound, a little bit unclear. So lots of different meanings. So you're going from minute to diminutive to diminish to dim. And then you can see if there's other things you can do with that. And also create vocabulary chunk themes. Put them into groups of a meaning, like one idea. So in this case, I'm using the theme small. Minute, tiny. Minimize, make less or make smaller. Minuscule also means tiny, but again, different context. Minutia, small details. Microscopic, very, very small, can't be seen by the eye. infinitesimal, super, super small, like almost even a microscope won't help you to see that. All of these basically mean small. Now, you can have all kinds of different themes. Be very particular, put as many words into that theme as you can. It will help you remember them together as chunks, again, over a long haul. It's not going to happen in a few weeks or a couple of months. Also, study a list of confused words. You can find this list on my website, because this is a common issue in the writing section, and the reading section too, but in the writing section especially, people confuse words. They have the right idea, they just put the wrong word. Now, they might not notice it, but the grader will notice it, and the grader will realize, well, maybe you're not so sure about this word. It could be a spelling mistake, it could be a meaning mistake. So for example, principle and principle. Principle means an idea, something that you live by. Principal could be like the head of a school or the primary, etc. Affect, they don't look the same. They sound very similar to a lot of people. Affect and effect, noun, verb, noun. Both of them could be nouns, both of them could be verbs. Make sure you understand the difference in meaning and use, especially use. Okay? Now, a lot of people do this, and I tell people don't do this. Don't memorize an AWL, academic word list, okay? So people take this list of 600 words and they just try to memorize it, just try to stuff it into their heads. It's all big academic words that they think will be very nice in their writing, in their essay. Know the words. Don't memorize the words, okay? Use them in sentences that clearly demonstrate their meaning. What this means. Every time you learn a new word, just trying to memorize word meaning won't help you. First of all, learn synonyms, learn the definition, but then know how to use this word. And how you're going to know that is by creating sentences that demonstrate the meaning of the word. Okay, let's look at the word mitigate. To mitigate means to reduce or to make less. And we're talking usually about something bad, like mitigate the pain, mitigate losses, etc. The director tried to mitigate the damage. Now, if I'm an English learner and I read this sentence, maybe I can guess mitigate, but I could guess the opposite too. To mitigate the damage, maybe to increase, to make less, to fix. To make less is correct. To fix is not, to make more is not. So you want sentences that a non-native English speaker can read and easily guess the meaning of the word, okay? The director tried to mitigate the scandal's damage to the company's reputation by ... So, the scandal, bad. The scandal did some damage to the company's reputation. The director of the company obviously wants to fix this. It's his company. He doesn't want the company's reputation to be damaged. So he's going to go explain his side of the story. So obviously, mitigate means to reduce the damage. You can't fix damage to reputation. You can only reduce it and eventually hope to replace it by a better reputation, okay? So this is what I mean. Don't make simple sentences just to put the word in. Use the word in such a way that the meaning is very, very clear. Okay, let's go to the next one. Number 6, include phrasal verbs, idioms, and collocations. Collocations are normal connections of words, okay? Collocations are very, very important, especially for your writing. And again, some of you who are going to be taking the Cambridge exam, for example, they very specifically look for collocations. There's a section for it. But collocations like airtight. Airtight is a collocation. You're taking the word air, you're taking the word tight, you're putting it together into one word. It means it's so closed that even air can't get in, okay? Lots of collocations. I'll give you a couple more examples. But again, study phrasal verbs and idioms and definitely use them in your writing. They're very, very important. And lastly, start populating an idea bank for specific topics. So here are the most common topics for in the writing section for the essay. Education, technology, advertising, sports, government, transportation, and a few others, okay? Start collecting vocabulary specifically for these topics and put them into categories within the topic. So education, think about campus, think about people in education, think about subjects, think about things you do in school, things you do out of school, things that are related to school. Put them all into a list and create an idea bank. Now, if you're not exactly sure what an idea bank is, you can follow, there's a link up here. You can follow to a little bit older video. I'll redo it, modernize it a little bit. But you can find out what an idea bank is and start creating your own idea banks. Now, again, if you don't have time or if you just don't feel like it because it's a little bit boring, you can go to my website and you can purchase ready-made idea banks for these topics, and some other ones will come as well. There's a link in the description box for that. And lastly, that was penultimate. This is the ultimate. Review regularly every single day. Have flashcards. Have an app on your phone for vocabulary. Have lists that you carry around with you. Recordings that you listen to, podcasts, or even on YouTube. Read. Read, read, read every single day. You're not going to improve your vocabulary by sitting for an hour once or twice a week in a coffee shop and trying to memorize words. Not going to happen, okay? You need to practice, you need to use it, you need to do it every single day. Now, last thing I want to do before I go on, I want to show you an example of a word that is not a big word, and I mentioned this in the last video. This is another thing I want you to do. Air. Everybody knows this word air. As a noun, it's the gas that we breathe. It's all around us, okay? As a verb, to air a room means to allow air. Open the windows, let air inside, make it a little bit breezy. Airy is an adjective, well ventilated. It's an airy room, or it could be something that's not serious, an airy conversation. It's light, it's not serious, delicate. Airily, lighthearted. We airily discussed the politics of the day. It means not too serious, just for fun, whatever. Aerate, notice the different spelling with an E. To aerate means to put air into something. Like you're pushing air into something that it wouldn't naturally go by itself. You aerate water. You put air into the water and you get bubbly, sparkling water. This is the one I want you to focus on the most. Air as a verb. To express publicly, openly, to broadcast, for example, on TV or radio. Sentence. A few of the protesters gathered in front of Congress to air their views, to publicly express their views against the new law because mainstream media outlets refused to air their march. Never use the same word twice in a sentence. I'm just using it here just to show you the meanings. Air their views, make them publicly available. Air their march, their march against the law. Air, put on the TV, put on the radio. Okay, on the air, off the air. And the main reason I want you to read a lot, because some of these idioms and expressions you're only going to experience through reading and through watching TV and movies. Up in the air, something in the air. Into thin air, out of thin air. Put on airs. Notice airs with an S. It's a noun. Clear the air. On or off the air. Okay? So, your mission for today, find out what these expressions mean. Go to the YouTube comment section and use them in sentences or explain them to everybody. Everybody can go and check each other, give each other comments, make it your mission for the day, okay? Now, if you have any questions specifically about building vocab, you can also ask that in the YouTube comment section. If you like the video, give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.